The emotional debt loop. Some years ago, I knew a man who defied every traditional expectation of success. Broke, short, physically unimpressive, and a high school dropout. By most measures, he was going nowhere. Yet, he always had women around him. He dated more than any man I'd ever met. When I dug deeper into how he communicated, something became clear. He wasn't charismatic or charming in the classic sense. He was toxic, emotionally manipulative, and deeply narcissistic. And oddly, that worked, at least in the short term. This article explores a psychological pattern I later came to understand as the emotional debt loop, a dark, yet profoundly effective technique that unconsciously manipulates the brain's need for emotional resolution. Whether you choose to use this for attraction or simply as a lens to better understand human behavior, I urge you to read this with both awareness and ethical intention. What is the emotional debt loop? At its core, the emotional debt loop is a manipulation strategy that triggers obsessive thoughts by creating unresolved emotional tension. It works by offering someone an emotionally charged moment, denying them the ability to respond to it, then retreating emotionally so that they're left with a lingering sense of failure. The effect? The target feels they missed something important, and this sense of incompletion triggers a psychological loop. They feel like they owe you something emotionally, and their brain starts replaying interactions to find closure. But that closure never comes, and so their emotional pursuit continues. The psychology behind the loop. To understand why this works, we need to look at 3 key psychological principles. 1. The Zeigarnik effect. This is the brain's tendency to remember incomplete tasks or unresolved emotions more vividly than resolved ones. It's why people obsess over the one that got away, or replay arguments long after they end. 2. Emotional responsibility transfer. When someone believes they failed you emotionally, they take on the responsibility to fix it, even if you never asked for anything. That perceived imbalance creates emotional debt. 3. Contrast and reward dynamics. When emotional investment is given sparingly or inconsistently, it becomes more valuable. This is the foundation of intermittent reinforcement, a technique used in everything from slot machines to toxic relationships. Step-by-step breakdown of the emotional debt loop strategy. Step 1. Offer an emotional moment she doesn't deserve. This means giving a woman access to a slightly vulnerable or meaningful thought that feels out of place for how early the interaction is. For example, I don't really trust people who are always smiling. They're usually hiding something. You deliver it casually, without emotional weight, then move on like it meant nothing. No sad pause. No deep stare. Just sip your drink and change the subject. The genius is this. Her brain registers the moment after it has passed. She feels like she missed something important. And because you didn't act like it mattered, she starts wondering. Was that important? Why didn't I respond? Did I fail him emotionally? This creates the first crack, the first moment where her emotional mind feels off balance. Step 2. Let her open up, then don't validate it. Eventually, she'll try to rebalance the emotional scales. She'll open up. She might share a confession, a personal story, or a subtle vulnerability like, I push people away sometimes. I don't know why. Here's what you don't do. Validate, comfort, or explore. Instead, you calmly say, yeah, you do seem like that type. Then change the subject. This creates emotional whiplash. She exposed something meaningful, and you noticed, but didn't care. Now she feels seen but unvalidated, and that subtle dismissal activates a psychological scramble. Was that not deep enough? Should I have said more? Why didn't he respond? She's now chasing your reaction, not your attention. Step 3. Stack the loops, then disappear. Once she's emotionally invested, chasing your validation and replaying your past interactions, you vanish. You don't ghost her dramatically. You leave calmly, silently, without explanation. This is the most dangerous part. She's left sitting in emotional uncertainty. Her brain loops back to every unresolved moment you left behind. She thinks, I should have asked more. I should have told him how I felt. Maybe it's my fault he left. She's obsessed, not with you directly, but with the version of herself that she never got to show you. And until that version gets closure, she'll keep chasing your emotional presence. The true power. Emotional addiction through contrast. The emotional debt loop creates contrast. You offer depth, then pull back. You create a moment, then erase it. You reward, then withhold. And this uneven pattern wires her brain to associate your presence with emotional growth, even if none exists. Each time she gives more and you give less, she feels like she's getting closer, but never arrives. He never needed me, but somehow, he lets me in. That's the illusion. Ethical warning. Don't weaponize this. This strategy is powerful, but dangerous. It's the same psychological loop that causes people to stay in toxic relationships, chase emotional abusers, and replay unresolved childhood traumas. It is not a healthy or sustainable foundation for love. If you use it sparingly. Use it to spark interest, not to sustain manipulation. Once the emotional investment is there, transition into emotional stability, especially if you're seeking something meaningful. Otherwise, what you'll attract is obsession, not connection. Final thoughts. This technique works because it mimics what the brain fears the most: emotional failure. When people feel like they missed a deep connection, they obsess, not to win you, but to redeem themselves. And that's the real power of the emotional debt loop. It's not about being wanted. It's about being remembered, in the unresolved echoes of someone's emotional memory. So be careful. Use it with wisdom. And remember, what begins in darkness rarely grows in light, unless you lead it there.